Bro, you're cheating. Steve, get over here, bro.
Bro, what's going on?
I caught this butthole cheating.
Wait, what?
Yeah, man, look, he's using reference. An action figure, too.
Bro, are you serious?
Why are you doing this, you
Bro,
butthole, you
that's
cheater?
just
You don't deserve to be an
disgraceful.
artist.
I mean,
You're not
why?
good enough.
Why
so
would
you
you
cheat.
cheat?
You're using
Why?
reference. Ha! You don't got skills, bro. Huh, bro, we sure showed that punk ass bitch.
You said it, bro. Anyways, I'm on a really tight deadline, so I gotta animate this kung fu scene, so I'm just gonna trace off Bruce Lee fight sequences.
Whoa, wait, bro. Isn't that cheating? Isn't that stealing?
Nah, man, it's working smart.
Working smart, eh?
Besides, animation isn't popular, no one will really know.
You sparked some interesting conversations.
Hey guys, it's Toniko Pantoja, and today I'd like to talk about what is considered cheating in art and animation. And I'd also like to talk about the morality behind that. First of all, what is considered cheating? I'm going to explore that more in depth later on, but the way I like to look at things personally is with a morality scale, or what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. At the far left is what I consider acceptable, and the far right is what I consider unacceptable. The first one at the left side, which I would consider, is the hard worker, or someone who likes to work hard. When it comes to art and animation, this is someone that does everything from scratch, from the ground up. No shortcuts are taken here. Things are usually done in a painstaking way. The amount of production value or the work put into it, so for example, you have so many in-betweens and a very subtle movement, I feel like that's a lot of hard work. Especially in animation, that's so much bullshit work. This is an individual who will use reference, and I'm saying reference here because I think everyone should use reference. I think people who say reference is bad is an idiot, but these are people who will use reference, but they'll use it more as a study than to use as a guide. So instead of just copying the poses, they would actually try and study how things work from the video or the picture. This is a route for someone that wants to improve in their craft. They want to learn and get better. And to do that, you do things the hard way. This individual usually has a lot of pride in their work. And if you just told them you could just do this to make it easier, they'd probably tell you to shut up, or they'd probably thank you. I don't know. Not only does the hard worker decide to do things the painstaking way or the long way or the slow way, but they're most likely to redo things. So if they feel that something they did doesn't work, they're gonna redo it. Honestly, it's a good way to learn things. But all in all, the hard worker is hardcore about the process, and they know their priority lies in their current work and craft. So in most cases, the hard worker is respected. But there's another group of people who think differently. So let's talk about the smart workers, or people who like to work smart. The smart worker will use tools, methods, and techniques to get something done. So for example, if you're drawing a layout scene, instead of actually drawing perspective guides, you use a 3D model, you build a 3D model and then just draw on top of it. That to me is working smart because you're trying to just get something done. The smart worker will use reference more as a guide than just a study piece. So they will copy the essence of the poses, but they'll still have their own take. The smart worker will most likely reuse assets. They'll copy and paste, they'll save a library of all the previous things that they've done, and they'll reuse it in a later sequence. So for example, you've animated a few explosions, you don't want to keep animating new explosions, you could just reuse them if later scenes have more explosions. Or they'll reuse the animation or the character performance because maybe they're in a tight budget or a tight deadline. Whatever it is, they need to get something done. Rotoscoping in a way is also working smart, especially if you're dealing with humans that move realistically. And if the budget and amount of takes is really limited, rotoscoping might help in that circumstance. But again, it depends on the production. Working smart will also take advantage of whatever software they're using. So if they have a special feature in a software that might be beneficial for the actual production workflow, they'll take advantage of it. Whether it's their rigging system, their effects system, they're going to utilize it for the sake of the production. Smart workers also think more systematically about the pipeline, and they usually think more about the broader pipeline of the whole production rather than just the current work that they're dealing with. This means that the priority of a smart worker usually lies in the end result, just getting something done. Working smart in animation, for example, could be utilizing more economic approaches to animation. Whether it's more limited animation, you're animating in 3s, 4s, less in-betweens, more holds. If it still manages to get the point across, and it fulfills an objective, then that's just a sneaky smart solution. A broad aspect of the smart worker is that they're usually trying to find shortcuts and not dwell too much time on things that are laborious or not so important. So if you want to get projects done, whether it's a short film, a comic, or whatever it is, I would advise you guys go the working smart route and then have a few elements in that project where you actually work hard to learn stuff out of it. But that's not to say you can't learn anything from working smart. By finding new solutions to a problem, you learn how to adapt, and you also learn how to just problem solve. So finding shortcuts may actually expand your mind and innovate new methods, which is super important to this medium. Alright, now let's talk about the midpoint of this scale, the cheaters or cheating. Well, what is considered cheating? Again, if you ask a lot of people what is considered cheating to them, you're probably going to get a bunch of different answers. And a lot of people have made their own rules in what's considered cheating to them. A lot of hardcore artists think that economic and smart solutions may be cheating. A lot of paper animation purists think that using the computer is cheating. A lot of idiots think that using reference is cheating. If you're painting digitally, using adjustment layers or color sliders to change your colors on the spot is considered cheating to some. In animation, instead of just redrawing the head, you just copy and paste your previous drawing of the head to the next frame, and some people consider that cheating. Again, a lot of different rules that people make up. And to be honest, I don't really see a difference between what is considered cheating and working smart. The only difference that I see with cheating, however, is that there's an added parameter. Cheating means it's going against certain rules and objectives. So if you're doing a challenge, if you're doing an assignment where the teacher or the person holding this event says, do not you do this, do not use that, do not utilize this, and if you do that, that is cheating. If it's something that's not agreed on or accepted in a certain circumstance, then it's cheating. If a teacher, for example, tells you to animate traditionally, and you animate it digitally, and then you copy those drawings from digital to paper, that is considered cheating, because there's a reason why that rule was set in place. When I think of the word cheating, I also think of the word betrayal or self-betrayal if you're trying to learn something. If you want to be more decisive about your color choices, you want to plan, you want to think about it more, you want to be thoughtful about your decisions. The same goes for animation. There's a time for trial and error, and there's a time where you do have to slow down, think about what you're about to do, plan it out, and then execute it. But in order to learn those skills, you have to force yourself to give yourself parameters. Because some of the smart solutions, or the cheater solution, are the things that you're only going to depend on, then it's just going to be a crutch. You can't perform this without needing this, which makes your adaptability much lower. So if you want to learn those skills, then you don't want to do anything that's going to hinder you from that. But it's also about your priorities and personal goals. Whether you want to learn something or whether you just want to get something done, just don't betray yourself. However, the term cheating is such a broad term that a lot of people have different definitions for it. In this particular video and in this context, I still think of cheating as someone who is still putting their own creative approaches and ideas to the process. The very worst version of cheating that I can agree that is totally unacceptable is stealing, which I want to talk more about in its own thing. Now we're moving on to the later half of the scale. Now let's talk about this is a little suspicious. And this is where it gets more controversial to me. Now there was a project that I used to work on where the production folders had all these collections of live action footage from well-known kung fu films, well-known action sequences from famous movies. And I remember being told by my supervisor was just to copy these exact poses, these compositions, these angles, just to get the work done, under a tight budget and schedule. And this was their solution to having us make elaborate action sequences in a very hard circumstance. This is a little suspicious, no? Besides hearing budget and schedule as a reason for this, some people will say, oh, we're just working smart. Or some people will say, no one will know. It's animation. We aren't that popular. I mean, it's not like we're tracing off other animated works. And this is when copying starts to blur into something like stealing. In the example I gave, live action footage is used, but you also have to consider that live action is a performance and art form too. Camera angles are choices too. Whether it's artistic or not artistic, it's still done by someone. It's still decisions made by someone. Decisions such as timing, cutting, these are all made by a certain individual. The choreography of the actor, that's an art form too. So if we're just copying those, we're basically stealing someone else's art, even if it's in a different medium. And I don't know, while some people may call this working smart, this isn't something that I'd recommend anyone to do. Because this passes the border of stealing in so many different ways. If you were to use live action movie reference, I would say just use it as a guide. Implement your own take and execution. Don't copy the camera angles, for example. And if there's choreography, be playful with it. Change it up. Do your own take on it. But don't steal it. Which then moves on to my final part. Straight up stealing. So a good example of this would be tracing a previous animator's work or any artist's work, basically. You're pretty much just ripping off someone's artistic take on something else, which is clearly blatant. Straight up stealing would be someone who has the balls to call it their own and they would make profit out of it. They're making profit out of someone else's hard work. If you drew on top of someone else's work but just gave it a different color, gave it a different skin, maybe gave it a different character design, that is still stealing because you're stealing someone else's performance choices in the animation. Things such as timing, the poses, the spacing. If these things are pretty much the same, that's stealing. And you also have to know that the animation and art community, they're a pretty niche group. They can spot a fake natty and stealer from a mile away. They'll be able to recognize this work is stolen, they'll tell their friends, and their friends will be like, hey, that guy stole my work. And things like this spreads like a wildfire, and especially on the internet, that stuff stays on there forever. The animation community will gather up and bring you down. And if you do steal, well, like I said, that stuff stays up there forever. And if you do steal, that's straight up career suicide. You'll be let go, blacklisted, everyone will know what you've done, and you have zero to little chance of getting back in. If you type in Kevin Bao on Google search, that's a prime example of the consequences you will get if you do that. And don't even do the practices that I talked about in This Is a Little Suspicious. So if I were to sum it up, working hard, socially acceptable. Working smart can be socially acceptable. Because there's so many different practices of what's considered cheating, I'll say it all depends on the circumstance. Things that are considered you should not do, or that's straight up stealing, don't do This Is a Little Suspicious, and don't do straight up stealing for sure. Anyways, that was my talk on what is considered cheating in animation. I did have to think a bit hard about what is considered cheating to me, because I too had predefined rules of what I considered cheating. But then again, I would say don't do anything that may betray yourself or may betray the community. Anyways, that's just my talk, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.